Archlich turned a thriving kingdom into ruins, and his army of undead spared no one, shredding every human they found into pieces. The last human fighter was Ao's, the Empire's mightiest swordsman who was battered and ready to quit, but this tale isn't about him or the Archlich. Damien Haxon serves as Archich's loyal Death Knight, bound by his master's command. He was just a normal person until the Archlich used dark magic to take him over, but before the Archlich could enjoy the crown he had earned through so many deaths. My guy broke free from Archich's grip and unleashed a blow that hit Archich right in the chest. The impact was so fierce that even his dark generals couldn't stand against it. Damien Hawken finally moved on his own, shocking the Archlich who had wiped his mind clean. But fate stepped in, and while the Archlich couldn't wipe our boy's mind clean, a tiny piece of his soul hid inside his head, watching helplessly as his body moved on its own. Under Archich's orders, his demon generals charged at Damien, but were wiped out in a single hit, forcing Archich to pull his last trump card and bring an endless army of the undead to the battlefield. A massive crowd of enemies rushed at Damien, ready to take his life. But just like before, one quick hand wave turned the undead into piles of ash. Archlich realized his time was up the moment he saw what was coming. He accidentally made something so powerful it could match the gods, so to save his own life, he just started trying to talk his way out of it. Even though his words couldn't change Damien's mind, he still had a backup plan to move his soul into a new body. Damien wasn't about to let this scoundrel off easy, especially after he'd lost everyone he cared about. To end the life of this rotting corpse, Damien went so far as to invent a move that cut souls right in half. At first, Archlich couldn't believe such a trick could really work. He still tried to break away just before things went wrong. But it was too late as my guy finally unleashed his last blow, striking Archlich right in the chest. At first, nothing happened, which made the bony-headed one very relieved and convinced it was all a trick. But pretty quickly, he realized the truth wasn't what he thought. A cruel spell seized him and shattered his body into dust, leaving nothing but his hollow skull behind. Even the last skull got smashed into pieces by Damien. Once Damien finally took his revenge, he lost the will to go on living. He actually turned and killed his own family while that twisted man held his mind. He tore them apart with savage fury while a helpless part of him just stood there and watched his loved ones fall. He could only find his dead friends again after he himself was dead. Thinking about it, he ended his own life. But it wasn't over, for his prayers were answered and he opened his eyes once more. As the person in front of him wakes up, Bro realizes he's in heaven, gazing at his sweet older sister. Even though she looks way younger, she feels happy when he calls her that. For a second, she thinks he's just trying to make her like him, so she'll help him dodge their dad's anger. And since she's always been the good sister, she says yes to bail him out when he needs it most. She dashes toward the grand mansion, shouting for him to get inside before the rain falls, and he stares up at the towering house that once stood where he burned it to ash. He has absolutely no idea what's going on. It's like he's stuck in a deep dream and can't wake up. Or perhaps all his past struggles were just a dream, and he has finally woken up to reality, though he knows the truth will reveal itself soon. He stands firm, using the wisdom from his past lessons to poke the hard rock with nothing but a simple tree branch. For a heartbeat, everything stays still until the massive stone cracks into fragments, proving his past nightmare was real. That realization makes him fall into his signature laughing slump, proving to him that this isn't a dream and his past wasn't either. He has stepped back into the past, and that truth strikes him hard. Let's take a quick look back at Damien's life at this age. Damien always remembered himself as a shame to his family, a clown whose silly acts made his father call him a loser, and whose bad behavior ruined everyone's lives, stole their future, and even got their home taken away. His father threw him out of the house because his talent for causing ruin and shame had finally pushed him too far. Out of everyone in the family, only his older sister still saw Damien in a good way. He never got why she kept being so kind and worried about him, even after he wrecked her life by breaking off her engagement. Before he left, she gave him some money to help his trip, and though he paused at first, he finally grabbed the bag and sprinted away as fast as he could because he was too shy to look at her. After fleeing his family, he finally saw how terrible his life truly was and filled with shame and guilt. Yet back in the present, Damon sits on his knees, scrambling to remember what made him slip away. Sure, he wanted to apologize to the rest of his family, but the thought that his prayers were answered and he truly returned to the past feels insane, like nothing but a divine miracle could explain it. He gazes down at his shaking hands, which are still trembling from the power he just unleashed. This trick, called wave breaking, makes every punch hit much harder. He only learned it after beating the knight who was known as the Castle Wall Destroyer. Suddenly, a familiar voice pulls his attention away as a worried servant sprints up, clearly bursting through with urgent news he couldn't wait to share. Damon knows the man is from the household staff, but for the life of him, he can't remember his name. Then the name finally floats up his mind, and he wonders if he is really Victor. Victor introduces himself and presses his young master to hurry inside, since Lady Louise has already come for him, while the servant warns that the patriarch is furious right now. Meanwhile, Damien has no idea how he angered his dad so much, but while the old man's furious voice bounces through the mansion back in Vice County, we're about to find out. The man is so angry he immediately tries to hit Damon with a wild swing he makes on the spot. Luckily, Damien's trained knight skills let him dodge at the last second. Just then, his mother and sister rush in just in time to hold back the patriarch from tearing Damon apart, only to find out that our boy had been thrown out of a bar for causing a huge scene and once again bringing shame to the family. The whole town's buzzing about how the hawk and the wind are troublemakers, but without the mother and daughter duo there to hold him back, the old man would have cracked Damon's skull open right then and there while they try to cool his fury. And as Damon reflects on how long it's been since he's gotten scolded, he strangely feels more alive than ever. Let's quickly meet the angry old man, Paul Dees Haxon, his mother Marita Haxon, and his sister Louise, who is his sweet saving grace. Even though things are chaotic right now, Damon missed this chaotic past life so much. Tears suddenly spilled from his eyes against his will, leaving his family staring in shock that their son could ever cry like that. Even his burn cools down a little, and before punishing his son, he gives him a chance to explain what happened. But Damon has no alibis and won't look for excuses. Well, his father was totally shocked by what he heard. To his family, Damien has turned from a guy who always found lame excuses to get out of trouble into a man who finally owns up to everything. He owns up to bringing shame to the Hawken family, admitting it's all his doing and having no shame about it. This lets out a long sigh because this isn't how things usually go, and while his son Damon is ready to do whatever it takes to fix the damage and save the family's honor, that isn't sure if that sincerity is enough to let him off the hook. Once he finishes, he's ready to take whatever punishment his dad decides, leaving his family shocked and wondering if the boy has suddenly changed or even hit his head. The scene shifts to the Merchant City landwork. Victor and Damien are creeping quietly toward the pub. The servant looks terrified and doesn't want to go in because he's heard scary rumors that the pub is run by a dangerous group. Damien, the fearless death knight who used to be, just strolls past his servant and lets him go if he's scared, but Victor shakes his head because he's loyal and won't leave his master, especially not out of fear. Damon puts his mind at ease by saying they're only here to speak with the pub owner and honestly apologize for the mess he made before, since he just wants to fix it. As he walks, he hopes the path ahead matches the perfect picture in his mind. He doesn't know why he's back in the past, but if a god gave him a second chance, he won't waste it. To stop ruining his family's future, he must take bold steps, and the moment he steps in front of the pub, two thugs immediately spot him. They spot the familiar face and sneer back with a dangerous, arrogant smirk. Damon can't quite recall the details since so much time has passed, but he recognizes them from before, and he speaks softly and calmly to let them know he's just there to apologize for the mess he made last time. The two thugs pause for a moment, confused by his words, until they start laughing at the sight of Damien, the once disgraced heir, suddenly being so polite. For years, everyone thought Damien was just a bad son in a bad family, but now they have to admit he's not so terrible, and he just stands there quietly while they talk nonsense. Then they go too far by bringing up his sister and pouring out vile, disgusting insults about her. They'll only take his apology if he brings his sister around, and since these creepy guys leave no doubt about how trashy they are, the whole thing stops being about sorry and becomes about something else entirely. Damon snatches a dagger from one of them so quickly that the guy doesn't even notice it's gone, proving he's lost all patience since he only wanted to say sorry and leave. With a clean, precise swing, he slices off one of their hands completely. The man collapses to his knees and lets out a scream of agony the moment his brain realizes what just happened. The other man quickly grabs his sword while visibly shaking from fear. Suddenly, Damon's deadly nature takes over as the ancient death knight within him wakes up. And don't forget Victor lurking in the shadows, screaming in terror as he dreads the chaos about to unfold. The cries of the hurt bad guy quickly catch the eye of everyone walking by. One man grows curious about the fight, while the other turns to walk away before getting caught up in the chaos. The thug, with both hands still free, throws out a few weak threats to scare Damien. He shows off his gang, the Black Snake, and warns that no one who crosses them walks away without getting hurt. It turns out these aren't just random street thugs after all, and even Damien remembers this group from the past. While the Black Snake group spreads its power over the land, this pub has become one of their chosen strongholds. When Damien complained about the expensive food back in the day, the only answer he got was a brutal beating that left him humiliated in front of everyone. So now he realizes he's the one who deserves an apology, not the other way around. Back to the fight. The thug makes it clear that Damon's noble title won't save him from the trouble coming his way. He finally charges forward, driving his sword forward with all his might. Damon just steps back, trips the thug, and lets him eat dirt. Before Damien can even stop coughing and stand up, he's already stabbing him with his dagger. And the guy should be lucky he's only about to lose a leg, because if his family hadn't made it so hard to wipe these guys off the face of the world, Damien would be doing it all the time. Now that the threat is clear, Damon hacks off the thug's leg, causing him to double over in agony. More thugs arrive at the sound of the screams, but they look scared by what they've seen, so only one brave thug steps forward while the rest hide behind him. He pushes hard to find out what group Damien is part of and where he comes from. Although Damien insists he has no gang ties, he's here to apologize, admit he should have been the one to ask for forgiveness, and also to complain about the pub owner. This sassy guy won't play along with Damien's demands, and since he's hiding his true name, they're getting scared that they'll have to force him to talk. The boss yells at his thugs to run right at them. The brainless thugs charge at Damien without realizing what's coming, and he doesn't even bother wasting time on these small fries. He takes a deep breath and zips past them faster than sound, cutting off hands that were never meant to fight him. In the blink of an eye, 3 thugs hit the ground, leaving Damien stunned and their boss speechless. Even though that quick dash tired out his young and fragile body, he still has enough strength left to finish off the guy in front of him, and he's ready. The bastard begs for forgiveness and offers an apology, but since he won't stop whining, Damien decides to cut off one of his arms to show there is no mercy left. Suddenly, the story jumps inside the pub, which is buzzing with lots of energy. But the mood shifts instantly when everyone spots the whiny guy frozen in terror by the door, knowing he can't escape his fate. As Damon's body slumps to the side, and everyone stares in shock, he brushes blood from his cheek while the customers who were just sipping their drinks scramble to run for their lives. It was a relief that the annoying pest left, leaving Damon alone to settle his score with the furious bar owner, Anderson Holm, who stood in the corridor looking like a goofy character from One Piece, screaming for a guard who wasn't coming. Damien only makes things worse by casually admitting he's already taken out the guards Anderson was talking about. Anderson can't believe someone beat the Black Snake, and the truth finally hits him hard, so he demands Damon explain his mess and demands to know exactly who he is. Damon speaks up right away, clears things up, and quickly admits he never meant to cause any trouble. He just wants the owner to say sorry for overcharging him, especially since he's already complained about it before. All he received for his effort was a cruel beating and being kicked out like a stray dog. Everyone got it wrong and thought he was the one causing all the trouble. That misunderstanding hit his family's honor hard and cost them dearly, while Anderson, the man with the big mustache, still doesn't realize how serious the situation has become. Instead of feeling sorry, he laughs at Damon and his family, thinking it's funny that the Hawkacks and Vi County have lost all honor anyway. What's even funnier is that Damien expected the guy to apologize, thinking he had already planned to spare him once the bastard finally said sorry. Now that he has the perfect excuse, he's ready to take a sweet revenge on the jerk who insulted his family. In a flash, Damien moves so fast that he's suddenly right in front of the guy on the first floor. He holds the dagger ready to tear the villain's insides out, but it looks like our hero got too excited and forgot to watch his back. A mysterious man named Ted rushes in with a heavy sword, slamming it down on Damien to knock him to the ground floor with unbelievable force. And since he is the person Anderson has been waiting for, Damien admits that Ted has serious grit. With that much power, our guy can't help but wonder how someone like Ted ended up working at such a low-quality place. Now he can't stop wondering why a knight this skilled would even be here. Let's talk about the knights for a moment, the glorious warriors of honor who spend their whole lives walking the path of martial arts. They move up the ranks like a ladder, starting as trainees, then becoming apprentice knights, and finally earning the title of official knight once they prove their skill. These official knights are so incredibly strong they can use their aura to slice through castle walls and dozens of enemies at once, making them feel like unstoppable gods. That's really why the bar owner is out here laughing like he's gone crazy. Ted, an apprentice knight who has pledged his loyalty to the Black Snake leader, joins the bar owner's trap with absolute confidence that our hero will never leave here in one piece. And honestly, that one piece is very real. Damon steps forward with business in mind, boldly asking Ted about his true rank. He finally gets why he felt that strange glow during their last fight. His revelation shocks Ted, who can't believe such a small person sensed his hidden aura, and after a moment, Damon figures out why Ted even works at this awful place. He believes Ted was rejected from becoming a knight and thrown out of the ranks, leaving him with nowhere to turn, while the bar owner tries to calm the man down by talking about paying the bill. When Ted heard the word apprentice attached to his rank, his blood boiled with anger. Furious and ready to strike, he dashes forward with incredible speed to slash the arrogant noble's mouth as punishment for his disrespect. Our boy stands tall with no fear in his heart, even as Ted's sharp blade is about to cut him down. He barely dodges the heavy blow, because if he hadn't, the angry apprentice knight would have cut him in half. The apprentice knight gets ready for another rush and swings at Damien, who dodges easily but begins to realize his opponent is far more skilled than an average knight. With a surge of angry rage, the apprentice knight swings his blade wide, but the young master dodges it effortlessly even as Damien struggles to keep up with his own body's limits, realizing he must learn to conserve his energy rather than push too hard. The young knight grew annoyed because every time he swung his sword, it missed his target. So this time he snaps and fills his body with a glowing aura. Knowing exactly what was about to happen, Damien figured out his opponent's hidden move before it even happened. As the apprentice knight's mighty sword comes down to strike, Damien faces his own death with calm courage, recalling his dark past as a death knight and the legendary blade of death he once faced to find the perfect answer. People spoke of the assassin not just as a killer, but as a force of nature. So the death knight stepped forward to face him, and the phantom assassin instantly held his blade to the monster, warning that he would kill him unless he turned and ran. When the death knight refused to listen, a dark and hungry side of the phantom assassin woke up, ready to hunt another victim. He actually wanted to use his secret move to put on a show like no other. Thanks to his sharp eyes, he could see the important parts of a person and use the water inside them. Then, he unleashed his ultimate Kit Kat move, likely learned from Sukuna, to slice through the Death Knight's body, all while wielding nothing but a plain wooden sword to show just how powerful his technique truly is. The Death Knight lay broken on the ground while the phantom assassin danced in celebration of his win. He had no idea the Death Knight wouldn't go down so easily. Just as he spun around, he realized doom had arrived, for the creature was stitching itself back together, reforming into one body even after being split in two, thanks to the Death Knight using an ancient secret move from the Han era that could do exactly that. Now that his body was fixed, the phantom assassin realized he had walked right into a trap, but Damien quickly learned the same move, used his sharp eyes to find the killer's weak spots, and in an instant, turned the tables to wipe out the Death Knight, just as he intended. In a burst of instant karma, the mad assassin felt terrible pain and couldn't figure out how someone had copied his secret move without even using a sword. And that brings us back to now, where Ted wears a look of despair and defeat. He's lying on the ground with a deep slash across his body, though he isn't torn in half. Our hero boasted that every enemy was knocked flat on their back before they even knew what had hit them, and this was how every single one of his battles ended. Because the Death Knight can steal enemies' powers and make them his own, Bro is showing Kakashi the copy ninja a thing or two. Watching Ted take that fall makes the bar owner sweat like crazy, fearing he's next, while Bro wears a look as desperate as Vegeta. A moment later, he drops to his knees before our boy to beg forgiveness for bringing shame to the hacks of County, and he doesn't stop there by also offering a heavy pile of gold to make up for any trouble he caused. Damien stayed inside to celebrate, while secretly taking an easy apology cash, and as he casually glances at his servant Victor watching in stunned silence, the puzzled boy can't believe how his master just dismantled a knight with a wild move that shouldn't even be possible. Next, they walk out of the bar. Victor remarks that he's never carried this much cash before, yet I have a bad feeling the bar owner isn't done since the scumbag plans to seek revenge later by talking to the Black Snake organization's leader. While Damien was planning his next revenge, our boy returned to humble him by slicing off the bar owner's right ear, and the screaming man learned that he couldn't leave without getting that punishment. He's already ready for the bar owner's next trick and more than willing to leave a message for the leader, with Damien adding one strict warning. If anyone hurts his family, they'll all pay the ultimate price. Even with his ear gone, he still plans to get his revenge and report to the group. But that comes later. As our boy walks forward and leaves behind his past life's blood and sins, he finally accepts his mistakes and promises not to let his family down this time. Damien shouts that it's time to head home. The story jumps to the Lion Bloom March, where a man talks to his brother about how pain always follows love. His brother, baffled by the stranger's ramblings, realizes the guy is heading off to another fight. Even though he says he's going on a quest to find love, not what his brother thinks, that ugly look on his face makes me doubt every word he says. Back at Hashin Estate, our boy wakes up feeling great after a wonderful night's rest following his wild adventure. Poor Victor, however, stayed awake in horror as he tried to figure out what had just happened and feared what might come next. Damien insists that everything turned out perfectly for us, so there is absolutely nothing to fear. Even though they changed their plans, they still got what they wanted. And now our hero is spreading a rumor so that everyone will know never to cross the Viscount Haken's eldest son again. He feels relieved that people are finally respecting him again. Even as his servant Victor can't understand how the young master suddenly became so strong and smart, especially since the scary Black Snake group is still angry because they were provoked last night when Damon walked among their men and killed an apprentice knight. But Damien is confident they won't dare touch a noble family, because if they do, he will beat them down, which makes Victor feel better and leads him to praise the boy's amazing sword skills. The skills he shouldn't even possess make him wonder when a young master became so good at sword fighting. Of course, our boy turns away quickly since he can't explain it, and Damon just tells him he trains every now and then. When it comes to Damien, his dad is currently zooming around out here, just like Barry Allen, the Flash. Bro is so mad that his son spent the whole day yesterday away from home. What's worse, he's terrified the kid has caused even more trouble this time. Damon stood tall, without a shred of fear, urging his father to relax and reminding him that he had fixed everything. He then orders Victor to show them their most prized possession. A shiny gold coin can make parents give in fast. It's the easiest way to make them happy, so the young master tells them about his trip to the tavern where he cleared up a mistake they made and even got paid for fixing it, though he happily leaves out the part where he chopped off 20 hands and plucked the bar owner's ear. His parents were hesitant at first, but the gleam of gold changed their minds in an instant. The funny part is that Damon even gets Victor to speak for him, shoving him under the boss, and by the end, Victor agrees with everything the young master says, which makes his words count more and helps his family trust him even more. While Mr. and Mrs. Damon smile in the background, Victor runs through the fields with his new, tricky boss right there, pushing his body to the limit. Soon, he's too tired to keep going and can barely catch his breath. This realization forces Damien to accept his weak body before it leaves him too far behind. So he pulls a purple gem from his pocket, hoping this lucky find will give him a quick edge. Before heading out, the tavern keeper added this special stamina-boosting potion from the Alchemy Academy to his list of treasures. Damien was shocked to hear that name mentioned. These experts craft potions and tonics so magical that their worth matches a precious gemstone. The young master got to keep all the good stuff for free. He chugs the tonic and instantly feels a shock of energy surge through him, crushes the empty bottle to focus on rebuilding his body into an unstoppable death knight, and realizes he must beat Dorgo before the undead army burns the world to ash. Damien is determined to stop that dark future from ever coming to pass, which is why he's going all out to get his powers back. That is the only path he can take to keep his family safe and happy. With a fresh surge of energy, he bursts forward, vowing to crush the arch and ensuring Dorgo never rises again. That very night, the camera shows the Black Snake Group's tower where the grunting Fatso is upset about the apprentice knight's loss since they spent a fortune hiring him, while Ted is so badly injured that even the underlings think he needs to be taken to a doctor. But the fake Kim Jong-un here is cold and cruel, ordering Ted to be tossed in the dumpster, while the Black Snake boss Cedric Walker, who sees no room for second chances, demands Ted be thrown away immediately. After all, they can simply buy another one to take his place. Gathering every bit of his strength, the apprentice knight stands his ground and sighs at how disappointing this ending feels. Cedric spins around, shocked to find the knight still standing strong. He gives Ted a second chance if he behaves, but the apprentice knight is so furious about how he was just about to kill him that he leaps forward with his sword. Just as he tries to strike down the boss, a dark tendril grabs him, wraps him in chains, and makes him useless. A shadowy figure shows up, eager to end the apprentice knight's life as promised, while Cedric grins with excitement to see the new heir in action, leaving the helpless knight screaming in protest as the mage chants a spell to summon dark demons from the shadows to attack. Before the knight can even figure out what is happening, he is met with a bone-chilling end, and even though he begs for mercy, 5 demonic beasts tear off his limbs and head, ripping his body apart as his screams shake the ceiling. By the end, all that's left of Ted is a sad little foot, a truly terrible death that leaves Cedric both repulsed and impressed, so he lets the mage join his team but asks for much cleaner kills from now on. The mage is pleased and waits for his next target, while the group's leader recounts how a noble messed with their members. But Cedric isn't stopping. All he wants to see is Damien dying in a terrible way, and he's even offering more money just to make it happen. Cedric hands the mage his pay before they even start working. The dark mage gladly accepted the mission and made sure to finish it perfectly. Breathless from his epic training, our boy grinds out heavy squats to build his muscles and boost his stamina. The training is working its magic on him. But strangely, the last few days have been way too quiet, like disaster is waiting just around the corner, making him wonder why the Black Snake gang hasn't come shoot him down by now. Just as he's about to take a sip from his bottle, he feels two killers closing in around him. Seeing they're the organization's scumbags, our guy zips in fast to pin him down. To his total shock, the guy he ends up attacking isn't an enemy, but Abel, his nerdy brother. The older brother lets go instantly, sending the younger one crashing down to the floor. Abel was stunned by his older brother's amazing strength, expecting his head to get crushed right then, but luckily, it didn't happen. Damon apologizes and reaches out a hand, admitting he never meant to treat him this way. Refusing his older brother's apology, the nerdy kid drops a bombshell. He found out at the bar that Damon got the owner to apologize, but the truth is a brawl erupted and dozens of people got hurt. Abel calls his older brother a liar for telling the family the cold, hard truth instead of making up something else. Abel stares at his brother in shock, wondering how he could have fought so many people unless he was secretly working with Agent 47. And even though Damien admits he did it all, Abel still can't believe it. He only cares that his older brother doesn't bring shame to their family, because they're already fed up with the messes his brother has made before. Damon gently pats his annoyed little brother's head, feeling proud that his sibling has such a pure heart and always wants the best for their family, which is why he doesn't mind his attitude at all. In fact, he smiles at Abel and says there is no need to worry anymore. Victor bursts in, breathless from running, to tell them some terrifying news that stops their meeting dead in its tracks. His sudden announcement made both young masters snap to attention. Next, they sprint to the family home and crash through the door, only to see his parents facing the same strange man from before, the one who claimed he was on a quest for love. When Damien shows up so fast, the proud man claims he just wants to share what happened at the banquet, introducing Erwin Lion Bloom, a dark version of Erwin from Attack on Titan. But he has some very bad history with our hero, and to figure out what went wrong, we have to go all the way back to the beginning. Inside the banquet hall, he and Erwin started arguing because Damon got mad at something, and Erwin just kept pushing him to get angrier. The drunk troublemaker reminded everyone that Erwin insulted his sister and badmouthed him, so he was fully justified to get angry. But Erwin quickly saw his chance to exploit the troublemaker's drunkenness and twist the blame. It just got worse when that jerk leaned right into his face to call him names and tell him that even if he said all that, Damien couldn't do anything about it anyway. It shocked our boy's whole system, and in that moment, he made the worst possible choice by picking up his fists and punching the guy, which felt great even though hitting someone in the hallway was the wrong thing to do. Even after taking a clear hit to the face, the noble grinned victoriously, showing he always wanted things to end this way. Which brings us right here, where Damien knows Erwin took the blow on purpose because he's so skilled he could have easily dodged, proving the slime ball was just waiting for this moment to boldly tell the boys' parents in their family meeting that he admires their daughter Louise. At first, the Viscount can't figure out what Erwin is trying to tell him. Then Captain Dushabag boldly proposes to Damon's sister. The announcement sends shockwaves through the Hashin family, leaving Damien seething with rage as he recognizes this exact same heartbreaking pattern from his past life, where the scumbag exploited their desperate situation. Erwin promises to forget the banquet hall disaster if they join his family to keep the peace, but his father, acting like a total boss, shoots down the idea flat. As Erwin's anger boils over when he finds Louise already promised to marry someone else, he unleashes a terrifying threat on the Haxon family, daring them to defy his proposal and face the wrathful storm he's about to unleash. They either pick him to marry their daughter or face the price they'll have to pay. Count Vic faces a terrible choice knowing the Lion Bloom family is mighty among nobles. Yet he sees how terrible Erwin is and can't let anything shameful happen to his daughter. So Louise suddenly steps forward to offer herself as the sacrifice and accepts the marriage deal. Watching his own daughter give her life for others makes the Viscount fall apart, so he tries to tell her they will find a way to get out. Even though Abel is furious and admits his sister won't have to deal with the trouble Damien caused, Damon feels sad whenever he sees her fighting to protect her family. But the brave girl keeps her smile and promises to go with Erwin, serving as a harsh reminder to our hero of his past mistakes and the pain he caused his sister, which now leads to an evil grin spreading across Erwin's face as everything turns in his favor. He feels relieved about the right decision, tells Louise a formal request is coming to sort things out, but just as he speaks, the devil himself appears glaring down at him, leaving anyone with a sister to understand exactly how he feels. Even though Erwin laughs at Damon and calls him his brother-in-law, Damon ignores him because he knows Erwin ruined his sister's life in the past, so he is determined to stop that from happening again. Louise is stunned that her brother has finally stood up for her, but before the arrogant blonde noble can even process his own foolish words, he gets a Mike Tyson-style uppercut that sends him flying into the sky, proving that Damon can no longer wait around while this bastard destroys his family. As the noble crashes to the ground, our boy stands firm, refusing to let Erwin have his way. To figure out why he hates the man so much, we need to look back at what really happened the first time. After being sold to the Lion Bloom family, Damien missed his sister for so long that when she finally came to visit, he couldn't hold back his joy and ran toward her with a huge smile. The moment he arrived, everything took a terrifying turn as his body shook with despair. Standing before him was his beautiful sister, but her hair was pulled back so tightly it looked as if she had been turned into an animal. Erwin hauled her along because she kept complaining about her terrible family, and he was furious that she even dared to threaten leaving him, but his anger wasn't going to stop there. Erwin locked his fist tight and brutally beat the shivering girl until she cried out in pain, just to make sure she would never disobey him again. Seeing that sight broke our boy right from the inside. Damien couldn't even save his sister from the trouble he started at the banquet hall, so now he is filled with a burning hatred for the man who ruined everything, Erwin Lionbloom. Right now, he's just finished punching that guy so hard he's knocked him out. The whole family is shaken until the Lion Bloom guards rush over, worried, after hearing their young master moan in pain. At once, they sheathe their weapons to realize that the ones responsible for hurting the young master were actually Damon's own escort guards. When mentioning the bastard, Erwin lets out a sneer like a small nuisance and stands back up. He's had enough of getting hit, and now he grips his sword tight as the Haxon family watches in terror. Finally showing his real colors, Erwin pulls out his sword and wonders if his brother-in-law is just looking for an easy end. To stop things from turning into a bloody mess, his guards quickly stepped in to fix it before it made him look bad. But this time, the furious fool ignores all sense and orders his guards to move. When an escort guard refused the order, Erwin punched him straight into the wall, proving he's a skilled knight rather than a weakling as I thought, and then he glared at the others with pure contempt to make them move. While Abel and Louise shake with worry for their brother, the Lion Bloom young master steps up to settle things with Damien, leaving them to face the mess they've made 10 times worse. Louise knows that Damien is in real danger for her brother's life and will be hurt. She steps in and forces a fix for everything. This time, our boy steps up to protect her, and she will never be chosen as a sacrifice again. This time, Damien, her older brother, steps in to handle things and gives her a reassuring look that everything is fine. It's time for the official one-on-one duel, and the Lion Bloom young master is shocked just hearing the word, but Damon lays it out clearly. If he loses, he'll do anything Erwin wants, yet if Erwin wins, they will forget everything that has happened between them. Instead of running away, Damien calls out Erwin's ego, telling him he's a coward for quitting a duel, which is basically saying no balls to a good argument. The funniest part is that it actually works, because Erwin thinks he'll easily beat Damien, so he accepts the duel to crush him forever and take his sister away. Next, Damon's worried mom wants to step in, but the Count sees his son's confident move and realizes he must have a plan, so they decide to trust him with their hopes. Badly, Abel knows just how desperate things really are for them. He is the only one here who truly sees the true knight in Erwin, proving that this fight was doomed the moment the arrogant young master charged without a sword, only to be saved by Damien's promise and Bro's ridiculous trusty fork that somehow stands up to the ultimate stick of destruction. When Erwin spots the fork in his hand, he can't speak while Damon's family suffers in silence, wondering what Erwin will do with it. So Erwin just laughs in their faces, convinced Damon has already quit and gone mad from fear, and with total confidence, he charges in a strike. But to his utter shock, the first swing misses Damien, who evaded casually. To make his attack harder to predict, Erwin whipped his sword around like a roaring lion, while Bro showed off his own spinning blade called Suzuno. Anyway, that scary-looking attack was just a trick, because by the end of it, our hero's feet are still firmly planted on the ground, and he's blocked every single hit, leaving even the escort guards confused about whether he's just messing around or if his opponent is actually that good. To figure out what went wrong, let's look at it from Erwin's side, where our guy dodged every single swing without taking a hit during that short burst when the technique first started. Damien is thrilled that his hard work with the fork has built up his stamina, letting him keep up with fast moves without getting tired, while he also learns the basics of the Lion Bloom family sword style. The best part is that in the first timeline, the Death Knight Damien actually fought the eldest son of the Lion Bloom family, Micah, who was a force to be reckoned with. Compared to that, his little brother seems weak and let down, which is why the current Damien can face him without any trouble. Erwin's blood is boiling as he blasts out waves of aura to deny that skill saved Damien, but this dangerous power leaves him stuck in a new puzzle that he must solve before he gets hurt. Wind speeds like a lion through the Bloom race, leaping right in front of the target to strike the final blow. In this split second, Damien picks a sword from his mental list and grabs it to use. A fierce battle erupts. Yet Erwin's entire world shatters when a simple fork blocks his sword and even pushes it back, leaving him unable to understand what is happening before he can even react. He realizes the boy's secret move unleashes a storm of thunder revelations, allowing the ultimate fork of destruction to toss the sword aside effortlessly, leading to Erwin's final defeat as Damon rushes to end the fight with his fork drawn. The fork plunges into the proud noble's neck, bringing the fight to an end. Everyone in his family stops and gasps with terror. You might have thought the fork was meant to kill, but our hero was actually being generous, poking Erwin's neck just to warn him that he could have done much worse. Even after getting a tiny stab wound, this guy starts panicking like a child. Yet deep down, Damon wants to kill him and erase the disease from the world. But he knows he must choose his family's side this time and let this situation slide. So he ends the fight, claims the victory, and then asks if little Erwin has any problems with that result. The proud noble shivered like a scared puppy, looking nothing more than a harmless doll. Just as the scene fades out, Damon yells at the guy to scram, and if you loved how he took that insult, hit the like button to show your support. The next morning, the family sits down to a quiet breakfast after their duel. After finishing his food, our boy stands up and heads off for his training. Now that he's gone, the family sits around in a heavy, sad silence. The boy's mom, being naturally curious, starts to wonder exactly when they'll finally talk to Damien about everything that happened. Speaking of him, Abel is totally reset, stuck in permanent shock, and unable to believe his brother just became this insanely powerful, a situation that's even worrying his parents. Viscount finally speaks up, saying it's wrong to push their son for an answer and that the best choice is to wait until the boy feels ready to tell the truth himself. It's a nice touch that they aren't forcing him there, especially since his father is visibly shaken by the look of death in Damien's eyes, which is so intimidating that even though Damien is his own son, the dad is too scared to ask him anything. Turning to our boy, he pushes himself hard like Rock Lee, loading his muscles with heavy weights to build endurance, just as Louise runs up to him before he leaves. As the first from his family to want to talk about what happened, she stammers to find her words while he realizes his mistake, drops his head, and apologizes for the trouble he caused and for putting her in such a vulnerable spot. As he goes on and on about apologizing, his sister cuts him off to thank him for saving her life, even though she hid her terror from Erwin, and now she knows he is the reason she didn't face such a terrible end. Hearing her admit it makes Damon truly happy that he made a difference. She feels so grateful to her brother because he bravely stepped up to save her. In a warm moment, while she thanks him, Damon gives his own thanks back with interest, showing his sister how much he appreciates everything she has done for him. Before Louise could even understand what he meant, he was already getting ready to go. Just as he is about to go, she hands him a sword to take with him. It was their dad's most treasured thing, the very blade he gave to his son Damon so he could train with it. The boy is stunned when his tough father shows such kindness, and Louise explains that deep down, Dad cares for Damien more than he lets on. Funnily enough, she does her dad's impression to remind poor Damien never to use a fork again because it's a real disgrace for the whole family. Damien, convinced by her demonstration, drew his blade in awe, realizing he owed a debt to his father, who comically boasts about his vast sword collection despite having no real reason to complain, while elsewhere terror crept into the shadows as an evil mage used dark magic to silence exhausted night guards instantly and slip past them into the sleeping house where Abel and his parents rested. The mage creeps up to Louis's room where she is half asleep, completely unaware that a bad man is watching her. That gross man is getting off on just staring at her. Even though he came here for the black snake, he thinks he's found something fun to play with. The dirty mage jumps when he hears a voice behind him, only to see our boy acting extra cool at the door, which makes the mage give him a nasty look and ask why he's doing that. The call was real because Damon felt strange energy near his house and decided to investigate. The dark mage finds himself puzzled by this guy, who slept through his special magic and stayed hidden until he spoke, proving he's a real troublemaker. He swiftly spins back to fire Vegeta's gleam gun, dodges the magical blast, and shifts positions, leaving the dark mage confused and frustrated as he fails to figure out what's happening. As Damien readies his sword and turns the accusation back on the invader, the mage finally realizes he's talking to Damien of the Hashin house himself. With his identity confirmed, our boy draws his blade, eyes locked onto the mage in a deadly stare as he demands why the guy even dared to enter his sister's room. The magic blast rocked the house so hard it roused everyone else from their sleep. The mage knows he's in big trouble if the servants have already woken up. Knowing he must finish his job perfectly, the dark mage chooses to step back for now. As Damien fades into the shadow mist and tries to stop him, you're stuck fighting the air itself with no way to win. His foe slips out the window and vanishes down the street, but Damien notices the mage left a trail of dark energy behind. Next, we shift our eyes to the servant's point of view. They found the dead horse, and if anyone sees it, the Viscount will get very angry. It's also strange since the horse was fine just yesterday. But as servants whisper in horror, Damien bursts in to shock them with his sudden appearance, expressing his own worries while reassuring them not to panic since he isn't there to blame anyone. He only wants to see it for himself, so he tells everyone to get off the site. Now that he's by himself, Damien checks the horse and discovers that the same ghostly trail of energy is somehow linked to this dead animal. He's sure it's dark mana because of the scary energy he feels, which also proves the man he met last night was a dark mage. Damien realizes his family is in the dark about what happened, and he keeps his mouth shut because telling them would just make things worse and cause them panic. Instead, he glares at the dark energy streaking across the sky toward the forest, and soon we see the dark mage's hideout, where he snickers over Cedric's latest shipment, having already lied to the Black Snake's leader by calling a curse. With so much inventory in hand, the dark mage is thrilled that his experiments will keep going. At the same time, he feels let down by his own skills, forced to grind through the worst jobs just to scrape together a little cash. But since the Holy Church is hunting him, he has no choice but to stay hidden, a lesson he quickly learns not to take for granted. Following the dark energy trail, our boy shows up to return the favor for invading his home, loudly complaining about the awful stench which is as terrible as a stranger on a bus blowing mustard gas that kills everyone. The dark mage stares in shock because the eldest son of the Viscount, the same boy he fought yesterday, just appeared at his door and stumbled into his secret hideout by smelling the ordinary gamer's mana on him. And now that he's seen the kid up close, he realizes the boy is far stronger than the rumors about him fighting the Black Snake ever suggested. The young master feels lucky he caught the link between the dark mage and the evil group, and the mage agrees, promising that Damien will face a painful death as part of their deal. The swordsman laughs at the mage's claim that Damien will die for the job, but the mage only giggles with glee at his own plan to turn the boy into a perfect pet, unaware that the swordsman has already sworn to never kill anyone unless there is no other choice. However, his only exception is anyone as evil as the dark mage, the very definition of filth, and Damien is more than happy to wipe them off the face of the planet. The dark mage is shocked by the boy's knowledge, but blasts him with magic circles anyway, refusing to let the young count's son escape, only for the boy to coolly charge forward and slice his opponent in half with one perfect strike. Diseases are tough to kill, just like this guy, who even after being cut in half, simply fades into the shadows and puts himself back together, making Damien realize his enemy is using the same trick he used before and is actually really strong, even though he took on a small job. With a wild, cruel laugh, the dark mage claims his victory, boasting that no normal weapon could ever cut him. To get rid of this pest, Damien snaps and slashes everything apart until there is not a single piece left. Even though he tries hard, his opponent can still put his body back together without trouble. The dark mage, convinced he's facing a powerful foe, declared that the second Damien stepped into his hideout, his fate was already sealed. While sealing his fate with the same deadly trick he used on Ted to trap Damien and unleash his monsters, the dark mage knew the church was coming, so he rushed to cast even stronger spells to prepare. Just by looking at the scene, it's clear things are getting super tense, and even our guy is feeling the pressure in his situation. The mage grins in victory and laughs at his foe's defeat, gloating that the challenger will soon regret daring to face a Ulan officer, while the trapped Damien is second from being eaten alive by dark creatures and meeting the same tragic end as the apprentice knight as the darkness begins to wrap around his victim. It feels like watching a spider trap its prey, and as the dark mage turns back into his real shape, he scolds Damien for being too cocky and taking reckless risks. He also recalls Cedric's command to make his target suffer as much as possible, a promise fulfilled by the long torment he will inflict. That bastard is out here celebrating because he can finally feast on the beauty he saw at his home without any interruptions. That changes everything when Damien leaves him a note that catches him completely off guard. He shatters the withering curse spell he had just cast. The dark mage, lost for words and filled with despair, wonders how his prey remains unharmed, yet he soon realizes that only someone who knows dark magic, like our boy, can break the curse. Here's the thing, though. Even Damien is shocked by what he did, because his powers likely triggered an ancient authority mark to appear on him, something he shouldn't have yet. So let's explain what this authority really is. In this world, mortals are believed to have been given the power of a god. Dorgo poured all his strongest magic into his Death Knight to make him indestructible, but knowing it wasn't enough, he cut open his own hand to pour more dark power into the knight and turn him into the ultimate weapon. A column of dark mana pulsed against the Death Knight, and with a sharp hand sign, Dorgo forced it all into Damien's body, carving an evil mark on his hand that tore him apart and filled him with pain unlike anything he had ever felt. By the time it was all over, the Death Knight had climbed so high that nothing could stop him. This Jigachad was given the power of God and became unstoppable, which finally makes sense of why Dorgo got his ass nuked after turning his Death Knight into a walking nuclear bomb and expecting everything to be okay. Right now, Damon feels the return of the Greed Mark, his Death Knight power waking up, and before he can understand it, he dodges a magic blast while a dark mage demands to know how he survived the decomposition spell. Damien, being a good sport, finally admits he had a trump card, and the story's author makes sure to explain that it's all thanks to the power of plot armor. Now back in the fight, Damien finally sees his enemy and realizes how they are tied to Yulon. This Yulon isn't just another group. It's a far darker organization that kills with forbidden magic, making the Black Snake look completely harmless by comparison. It was no shock that this guy turned out to be really good at it. The Dark Mage sees the danger and knows he can't let this fight against such a wild opponent go on forever. Although he meant to save his best trick for the church, he decides that now is the perfect moment to pull it out. As his green bracelet pulses with light, the mage throws out a surge of magical energy that spills from him as he begins to lose control. Damien realizes this stranger is dumping dangerous dark mana into a bracelet that acts like a magic storage jar. Suddenly, everything goes from 0 to 100 when this guy unleashes his full power and summons a beast so weird and strange that I can't even describe it. So let's just call him the Ugly Five Eyes. With his power spiraling out of control, the Dark Mage bellows that his foe is doomed and that Damien will be burned in hellfire. The destructive creature completely engulfs and connects with our boy's body, so the Dark Mage thinks he has won. Yet Damien survives the unhellable green flames by slipping through them, proving that even hellfire can't touch him. The power of greed can't even break a spell. Damien stays completely safe while the burning hellfire flows right into his body instead of hurting him. He stands alone and stronger than ever, his power now serving to swallow all dark magic, leaving the mage speechless as he wonders how the son of a count could wield such terrifying force. Now it's time for the fight to end, as the young master sharpens his blade and declares that he has nothing left to explain to a man who is already dead. But deep down, Damien is truly angry that he has to use his dark powers just to win a fight. While he has no other choice, he must call upon the power of the Death Knight to come out on top in this fight. When the Dark Mage is speechless at the black aura covering Damien's sword, the boy unleashes his final move, a soul-severing slash that cleaves the enemy in half and splits the cave wall, leaving the mage pinned to the ground as Damien demands where the Dark Snake hides before walking with Victor toward the city of Landwork the next morning. The fatty asks why they are going, but the boy quickly tells him to stop asking so many questions. The Big Mac turns his curious eyes from his snack to the dark book Damon is reading. The boy says this book of dark spells is something new he found, but deep down, he knows it actually came from the dangerous wizard he just defeated. Victor still doesn't believe it, since he knows those old spell books are super rare and hard to find. But before he can speak again, a nasty smell from the sack Damien is holding pulls his attention away. Soon, they reach the market where the boy hands the sack over, casually mentioning it holds a person's head. He stubbornly decided to open the sack himself and found it dead, staring back at him. With a terrified scream, he tosses it aside, gasping for air as the boy insists he hand over the head and the book first, promising to explain everything later. Even though Victor was terrified and almost wet himself, he said yes. After a while, the boy reaches the Dark Snake's gates and boldly introduces himself, only to have the guards ignore his Hashi name until they realize he's the very person their boss warned them about, at which point he senses they know his identity and pushes them to let him pass. They agree to Fatty's shock, but the moment guards let him in, a flare bursts into the sky, summoning a swarm of assassins and bounty hunters who instantly surround Damien with weapons drawn. They say this is a welcome gift from their boss, but even as the boy stands surrounded, he stays calm and sure they'll regret their choice. While far away in headquarters, Cedric, the Dark Snake's boss, shares lunch with the Landward governor and his drunk knight. The governor, clearly loving the food and the company, casually gives Cedric charge of the city's red light district. Cedric's face lights up with joy at the offer, but he worries the others might say no. The governor quickly calms him by claiming he has the power to shut anyone who disagrees up. The drunk knight slumps down and tries to help, but the fatty waves him off, telling him to stop wasting energy on small things since he's already doing his part by keeping them safe. The knight gets flustered by the comment, and he and the governor seem ready to do anything Cedric asks for, while Cedric plays along to keep them right in his pocket. Honestly, he puts on a show just so he won't have to bow down to them later. His dreams don't stop at just one neighborhood. He wants to take the whole city for his own. Right as they were having a good time, One of their men rushed in to urgently tell Cedric something important. Cedric grumbles, but goes along with him anyway. As the man shouts that it's Damien, Cedric screams the name so loudly that the governor in the next room can hear him. He boils with anger as he realizes the dark mage he counted on was a total letdown. Still, he waves the man away, saying there's no need to worry. Cedric is certain Damon has just walked into a deadly trap, but even if things go wrong, he knows someone who owes him a favor and will make sure the job gets done. Feeling something wasn't right, Fatty rushed out of the building and was stunned to find his killer defeated on the ground while the boy stood there completely unharmed. The sight of him leaves him speechless, because while everyone always said Damon Haxon was just a useless son of a count, this boy clearly has real skill. The sudden thought that Damon might have been the one to stop his dark mages fills him with panic, so he dashes back inside to grab help. Outside, the mage thrusts their staff forward to blast Damien with a huge fireball. To their shock, he slashes with his sword, pouring all his thunder power into the blade to bounce their attacks right back at them. The explosive blasts turn the mages into burnt corpses, but just as it looks like they're all dead, Damien feels something coming from behind. He twists his body at the last second to barely miss a deadly sword swing that slams into the ground, sending a shockwave flying. Though Damien dodges the direct blow, he still feels its massive power so strongly that it burns the tips of his hair. As the dust settles, a knight filled with deadly purpose steps forward, and the heavy pressure on Damien makes it clear this man was once a top-ranked warrior. Soon, more soldiers arrive and surround him, stunning Damien because he realizes they aren't just mercenaries but official city guards meant to keep order, and he instantly knows what that means. A short while later, the governor rushes into the scene, screaming at the boy for making a huge scene in the middle of the city. Cedric leans in with a smug grin as the governor announces that Damien will be punished not just for attacking a man like Cedric Big Cap, but for killing his workers too. As the townsfolk stare in shock at the governor's strange choice to stand with that big man, Cedric stands tall and sure, thinking the boy is finally in deep trouble. But Damien doesn't even blink, meeting Cedric's gaze with sharp eyes and calling him out for being the leader of the Black Snake. Damien thought the Black Snake leader might have some shady ties, but the sheer power he wields is ridiculous, especially since the governor is right there defending him like he's a double cheeseburger. The governor, looking calm, tells the boy to give up, but the boy says he did nothing wrong, so the governor gets annoyed and orders his knight, Robert, to take charge. Responding to the order, Robert stepped up and told Damon to surrender, but the boy didn't even flinch. Thinking it was an insult, the knight flashes his sword, but Damon barely avoids the blow, watching as it hits the ground and sends rubble flying. Knowing the knight is too strong for him, Damon braces himself, but gets knocked flying by a mighty blow, landing on his feet only to feel his whole body shake from the impact. While Damon waits quietly for help as the battle goes on, the knight keeps him on the edge of his seat, charging forward with unstoppable speed and hacking away with his huge axe over and over. Right before the weapon strikes, someone leaps in between them and stops the blow. The force is so powerful it knocks the knight's axe right out of his hand. The stunned knight can't believe his eyes and shouts to ask who is standing there. As the figure steps into the light, the crowd freezes in shock, realizing it's a muscle-bound mother who wields a holy sword. Damon lets out a breath he didn't know he was holding, knowing his reinforcements have arrived thanks to Victor. Cedric realizes that if a paladin is here, the church is involved, and they probably already know who the Dark Mage is. It turns out Damon sent Victor to the church with the Dark Mage's head, and Victor did exactly what he was told, saving the mage in the end. Just a few hours ago, Victor stumbled into the church slick with fried oil sweat, clutching the sack and the book Damon had given him. He gave the items to a nun, insisting they prove someone was working with dark mages. As she held the book, she felt a strange, dark power flowing out of it. When she saw the symbol, her face turned to shock. She grabbed the sack from Victor without saying a word. The instant she caught sight of the severed head, she knew it was the officer of Yulan she had been hunting for all along. Without a second's thought, she tore off her nun robes to reveal a muscular mother beneath, and immediately demanded to know who sent Victor with those items. Now back in the present, she looks thrilled to finally meet Damien and promises that the church will handle things from here, so Damien politely agrees. It happened just the way he had always dreamed. Paladins who serve their god are famous for their kindness and love for helping others. But when it comes to demons and dark arts, they don't blink. They become unstoppable, almost obsessed. After realizing the church is now on his side, Damien steps forward to tell the crowd that since someone inside the city is talking to dark mages, the church will take over until they finish their search. The governor isn't happy about this, since the kingdom gave the city its own freedom to run things. But the paladin shuts him down with a firm reminder that the church holds the power to override the kingdom itself. Besides, both he and his knight look like the most likely culprits. When they hear this, they are shocked, but the real blow hits when she points straight at Cedric, accusing them of sheltering the man who once backed dark mages and hid among their ranks. The moment Cedric is asked about it, he flatly says he didn't do it. The paladin holds up the book as proof, showing inside pages that record how Cedric bought supplies for the dark mage. This news makes Cedric furious because the dark mage wrote everything down. As the soldiers start turning on Cedric, he and his men beg to be believed, but it is already too late. The paladin commands that they be taken into custody for questioning. As they were dragged away, the governor saw Damien and finally understood that he was the one who pulled all the strings. He is caught between fury and fright, not knowing what the church will do next, while Cedric tries one final time to run from punishment by goading the governor's knight into action and refusing to let a boy ruin their names. The knight freezes to think, then surprises everyone by breaking free from the guards to charge straight at the paladin, hoping to take her down and run, but he completely misses his attack. To his horror, the paladin reacts instantly with a crushing punch to his gut that kills him right away. The paladin says that anyone blocking God's path will face punishment as divine will demands. Once they see what happens that night, Cedric immediately drops to his knees as the governor keeps fighting back, while the boys just grin and watch the Black Snake Gang leader kneel before the crowd. For that, the boy quietly thanks Victor, realizing that the paladin is far stronger than he first imagined. Looking at her powerful aura, she must be an Azure Flame apprentice, the strongest warrior in the church famous for taking down many mighty enemies. While Damien was lost in his own thoughts, the paladin called out his name and thanked him for killing the dark mage of Yulon. She tells him the church will honor his work and won't charge him with a thing. She reveals the church knows Damon didn't just report the dark mage, but used that situation to hide his attack on the Black Snake faction. Hearing this, Damon apologizes and explains that the dark mage had tried to hurt his family. Moved by what he heard, the paladin agrees to clear his name and promises to give him the 1,000 gold coin bounty on the dark mage's head, even though Damon doesn't ask for it despite enough money to buy a small castle. Instead, he asks for something else, one of the church's mana cultivation techniques. The paladin is truly shocked to learn that despite his mighty strength, he still craves advanced training. And while Damien knows the truth that defeating the dark mage wasn't enough to survive what lies ahead, he understands that more growth is essential. So he absolutely needs that secret, powerful mana training used by paladins. He admits he only knows the basics for now, but dreams of mastering the advanced stage. The paladin is stunned to find that reaching such incredible power with only the basics is almost unheard of. She feels the powerful energy humming through him, and knowing he just beat a dark mage only makes that power seem even greater. Seeing the light in him, the paladin doesn't just teach him a trick. She eagerly asks him to join her path and become one of her own. But she felt sad because the boy kindly said no. She can't fathom why he would turn down such a rare and holy honor, a title earned by very few to serve God. Damien doesn't care much for religion and refuses to be used by the church, but since he can't say that, he just pretends he's not good enough for the job. For now, he pretends he just wants to travel the world as a humble seeker of truth, and to Victor's shock, the trick works perfectly because the paladin is so moved by his humility that she not only gives him access to the mana technique, but also warmly invites him to visit her church anytime. With that, she officially steps forward as Agnes, the very first apprentice of the Azure Flame. Damien politely asks to handle one final thing, and she is confused until he walks over and punches Cedric, blowing the fat right out of him. He lands a vicious kick that sends Cedric flying across the street. Only then does Damon finally feel satisfied. With that, he and Victor had finally done exactly what they came to do. As the news spreads, Erwin's dad sprints across the grounds of the Blum family estate to reach his son. Erwin shakes with terror as he says Damien tried to kill him with a fork, which makes his father so angry he explodes. He growls with fury, asking who had the nerve to touch his son. To his shock, the guards reveal that the secret behind it was Damien of House Haxon. His rage boils over when he realizes that a so-called nobody like Damon managed to beat his son using tricks he considers cowardly. He starts smashing the furniture in a rage so intense that he orders his men to drag Damien to him like a dog right away. Meanwhile, at the Hashin house, Paladin Agnes and her men arrive to meet Damon's father, who instantly turns furious when he realizes his son has brought not just trouble, but a bunch of lunatics into their home. Agnes politely tells him they're there to investigate a heretic, which irritates him while his dad worries about housing 4 strangers. But the house magically expands when she offers gold. After Damon's parents slip into their room, Agnes whispers her thanks to Damon for letting them stay. Deep down, he never thought she would ever ask for that. To his surprise, she had another one, and even more surprisingly, she wanted to ask him personal questions as part of her effort to share her faith. Damien's parents wrongly think he is flirting and make him even more embarrassed, until Agnes finally clears the air by handing him the training he asked for along with a matching sword technique that she says fit perfectly together. Damon realizes these 2 books, a deadly sword style and a powerful energy technique, are unlike anything he's ever seen, even for his past life. While he flips through the first one, and Agnes goes on and on about how hard she worked to get them and how much she went out of her way to help him. She even tells how her master, the Azure Flame, got interested in letting Damien join the Paladins after hearing everything she reported. And so she asked him once more to join their group. But our boy, true to his ways, says no. Agnes just smiles, offers her help, and walks away, leaving Damon feeling uneasy as he realizes she is a true fanatic, while elsewhere investigators carefully look over the remains inside the ruined cave of the Dark Mage. One of them looks visibly shocked, unable to believe that a boy like Damien could actually beat a mage trained in dark magic. The other detective agrees that something seems off, yet notes that Lady Agnes hasn't asked any questions about it. Yet, the situation still weighs heavily on both of them. While they were talking, Agnes walked right in and spoke up to calm their worries. She admits they're right to be skeptical, but insists Damien is telling the truth. Even as an investigator struggles to believe he could have done it, since Agnes points out they've already heard his full story. She tells of how, on the day his servant brought the head, she still doubted his skills. That's why she remained hidden to secretly watch him when assassins suddenly attacked. To her surprise, Damon totally overwhelmed them, leaving the investigators in disbelief when they watched him block a fireball using only his sword. Agnes says that some warriors can block magic with just their skill and aura once they reach a certain level. One investigator guesses Damien might be a master swordwoman, but Agnes isn't sure, though she's certain he's a talented fighter, and she even thought about bringing him to her master after Yulan lost because she knew he'd be a great help to the church. With that, she tells them to stop doubting and get back to work. Right as a knight from House Lion Bloom arrives outside the Hashin estate with 2 apprentices to confirm the location and get things started. The leader reminds everyone they must arrest Damien of House Hashin. He says it will be easy, but he wants to make them suffer because this is his personal revenge for how he humiliated Erwin. The moment he speaks, he spots an ancient warrior with just 1 hit point left, strolling past. He shouts out to ask if the man belongs to Count Hacken's family. The old man nods, and instantly the knight swings his blade to end him, leaving everyone wondering what Gramps actually did. The knight feels it's rude for a lowly servant not to bow before the great lion crest. The apprentice knight quietly realizes the old man was blind, but the commander doesn't care and orders his men to drag Damien out and kill everyone else. As soon as they get the order, the knights rush straight at Victor, who is just minding his own business at the gate sweeping the floor, while Lady Agnes and her group hang out and chat in the deep woods. Agnes says the site collapsed and they miss some intel, but she's sure it's okay because everyone did a great job. But then, suddenly, something grabs their attention and freezes them right where they stand. A lone figure sits on a rock, calmly weaving magic that leaves Agnes speechless as she tries to piece together how he does it, realizing that the destructive power she gave Damien must be a cultivation method that could eventually let him freely absorb the magic around him. What really surprises her is that he has climbed so high in just a few hours. As Damon shakes off his focus, he looks down to find 3 wide-eyed onlookers, Agnes and her team, staring up at him like curious baboons. Agnes can't stop herself and dashes straight to him, while Damien stays cool and asks if they're finished with their search. Damon is so caught up in his book that Agnes, watching him, can't help but smile at how far he's come. Suddenly it dawns on him that Agnes wasn't overblowing when she said this book is incredibly rare, because while old sword tricks mean nothing to a former warrior, this cultivation method is like a game changer that's actually useful for someone like him. Thinking about it, this destructive energy skill was made to fix the wild mana drain of the sword technique, and since it's built differently, it swallows mana faster than most and can even pull energy from the air around them, making it a huge plus for Damien, who needs plenty of fuel to fight hard without burning out. Lady Agnes and Damien lock eyes, and for a heartbeat, the world stands still. Snow White's cheeks turn pink as the strange guy breaks the quiet to say it's dinner time and that they should walk home together. But just when he thought he was safe, Damon suddenly feels a wild, sudden urge to kill. His gut tells him the vermin has arrived. Without wasting a second, He tells Agnes he has an urgent errand and kindly asks her to take her own time getting back. Agnes stood frozen in shock as he vanished at a speed that seemed impossible, given how little magic energy he had used. She suddenly understands that he must be steering it with amazing control. While Agnes quietly wonders just how far Damon will push his limits, things turn violently violent back at House Hashin as Night Lavender mercilessly beats Victor, landing a gut-wrenching punch straight to his stomach. Victor falls and begs for mercy. Yet the night isn't over as his tormentor keeps cursing him with every blow while Garrick and Opulpus stand by, laughing at the suffering like it's a show. Victor shouts in agony, but his cries do nothing to stir them. Just as things heat up, Viscount Paul storms in and yells for the knights to stop their horses. Garrick sees him right away. It's Paul Haxon, the Viscount. Paul rushes over to Victor and catches him in his arms just as the poor guy lies there unconscious, bruised and battered. With fury burning in his eyes, the old man demands to know what kind of knights would attack innocent civilians, especially after their family has already caused so much harm to House Lion Bloom, and he insists that whatever Victor has done is nothing compared to it. With that, Garrick steps forward and declares that the glowing lion in the sign is calling out for Damian Haxon. He warns them with a cold voice to hand over the young master, or else House Haxon's land will suffer greatly. The Viscount knew he'd face a fight, but he never imagined it would be this big. Yet Paul stands his ground, claiming the other person is just bluffing. He vows that no matter what happens, he will never give up his son, because he knows that if he did, Lion Bloom would burn their home to the ground. The old man gives Garrick a quiet, stubborn smile, stares him right in the eye, and makes it clear he will not let go of his son. Garrick, clenching his teeth, warns that the fool will regret that choice. Yet it looks like House Lion Bloom's knights have been left with no other path. Garrick yells at his team to wreck everything until Damian shows up, but the Viscount tries to shout them down before a cold, scary voice cuts through the noise and asks if those pests have gone totally crazy. Everyone freezes as a dark, purplish, toxic mist creeps in from another direction. Garrick turns to feel the heavy pressure, but he has no idea who the man behind that scary power is. Right there, Opus and Lavender freeze with their legs locked to the ground. Damon's intense presence leaves everyone frozen in fear, but Damian calmly kneels beside Victor to check if his loyal servant is still alive, and a single glance is enough to ignite his fury as he warns the knights that they are lucky Victor is tough, because if he had died, Damon would have killed every last one of them without hesitation, a threat that makes Garrick stiffen with realization. That scary-looking guy must be the infamous Damian Hashin, and he's clearly got the nerve to challenge the Marquis himself, while Garrick scoffs and thinks the kid is just a crazy, arrogant fool who's gotten cocky after pulling off a cheap trick to beat a noble. Either way, the blonde gorilla has finally had enough.